Hey guys, what's up? It's Black Dan, and today I want to talk about an interesting topic, one that I think a lot of people just don't understand, which is competitive mindset. Now, competitive mindset, I think it's something that you actively have to strive for. It's not just something that you get overnight. And I want to take this time to help you gain and awaken your competitive mindset. So let's go with step one. Step one, thoughtfulness. The first step sounds really simple. To grant yourself access to this state of mind, the simple key is thinking, thoughtfulness. It sounds really easy, right? Wrong. Most of you who are up on the peak of Mount Stupid, where the majority of people lie and find some success, that makes you feel good, but you're not really sure what's separating you from the people in the valley of despair. The simple answer is thoughtfulness. They take actions, but those actions aren't just random button presses or just going into a crowd of enemy teammates. They thoughtfully do all the actions that they're doing. You can't just be like, I'm only gonna think 5% of this game. You have to think 100% of the game. Every time you push a button, every time you click to move, every time you move left to right on the screen, you have to have thoughtfulness and intent behind your actions. Everybody's least favorite guy is that guy that jumps into the enemy team trying to think he's a hero and is going to save everyone and then just gets immediately killed, right? Don't be that guy. Think. Be thoughtful. That's step one. Step two, resilience. This is where many players that try to get into competitive games can fall off or stagnate. When you're trying to climb in any competitive environment, there will always be somebody better than you. That is just a fact of life, and you cannot change that. To be the very best is to be the 0.0000001% of the person playing the game. And that's just not, it's just not feasible, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's okay. It's okay to lose, and that's what the resilience part is. You have to be okay with losing, because when you let the losing break you and you stop trying, that's when you've truly lost. If you keep trying and don't look at the loss as just, oh man, I played like shit, I lost. You need to look at the loss and dissect why you've lost, because you need to learn from these experiences. Being resilient enough to push through and keep going. That's the most important thing, because the moment you stop learning, that's the moment where you are in the valley of despair and you'll never get out of it. Simple with that. So don't let yourself get stuck there. Keep moving forward. Try to inch up to that slope of enlightenment, or, the valley of enlightenment, as I like to say. But just inch yourself up. Don't stop just because you've lost. Losing isn't the end of the world. You're gonna lose 1,000,000 times before you get good. Everybody did. Even the best of the best of the best player, they lost before they got good. Step 3, reproducibility. This one's gonna throw you guys a little bit for a loop. Reproducibility is basically what I call a game plan, in short. Once you start thinking, you need to have plans or formulas already made in advance so that you can think less about the basic processes and more about advanced processes. Now, This would translate to being combos, setups, and basic situations like anti-air situations in a fighting game. In a shooter, it would be knowing the map layouts, your gun's recoil, having pinpoint accuracy, and knowing how your tools and abilities of your character work. That's pretty easy. In a card game, it's about knowing the proper play lines for your deck and knowing what your cards do. Each of these is a different thing in its own game, but it really translates to the same thing, is that you need to learn how to reproduce these things and not think too hard about it. To some of you, what I just explained may sound like a complicated process. If it does, that means that you're still at a level where you simply need to work on these to make them second nature, to be able to do them with little to no thought, almost on reflex. Once you do this, it can become a reproducible formula for you to take from in the middle of any given situation. In fighting games, you would say, I landed the hit with my heavy punch, and know the best combo to go into from that situation. In shooters, you would say, I see this place on the map. This is where the enemies are going to be. In a card game, you would know which play line to use to get the situation that you're looking for. Formulas are the main basis of reproducibility and extremely important for the next step. Step 4, parallel processing. This skill can only be obtained once you have a decent chunk of reproducible formulas in your arsenal. This skill is where you incorporate the more abstract parts of games, more high-level thinking and active thought processes. You no longer have to think about your reproducible formulas, so you can put 99% of your brain's processing power into the game. And since you're doing this, you can make a lot more difficult decisions much faster. For example, in fighting games, this would be your reads, attention to cycling your options, opponents' tendencies, things like that. In shooters, understanding the other team's strategies or weak links and picking them apart with that knowledge. Effective team coordination to pull off your own strategies. In card games, knowing your own deck's counterplay to other decks. Bluffing the ins and outs of other cards so that you can take advantage of either the weakness or strengths of your own cards or your opponent's cards. The best thing that this state can give you in all games is it gives you the ability to gather information on your opponent and memorize that and pull from that memory later on in the match. These things are what intermediate to high level players have over those of you who are considered low level. And the only way to combat this is to gain this skill for yourself. And the last step, step 5, mind games. Once all players in a game have entered the point of being able to parallel process, this will result in a battle of the minds known as mind games. This is the point where you can hear people referring to the highest levels of play as a chess match sometimes. When they say that, this is what they're usually referring to, mind games. The battle of minds is constant and involves both players trying to one-up each other or to be 1 or 2 steps ahead of each other in knowing what the other will do. They do this by using the information gathered throughout the game combined with the meta information that they already know about the game to make snappy and informed decisions. It's almost like they have a weather forecast in their head. An interesting tidbit about this last step is that when most top players face lower level players, they don't usually need to use this And in some cases, using this against lower players can actually cause the top player some confusion, because the other player isn't really interacting in the same space or wavelength that you are. Most top players will usually result to just fighting with their parallel processing, since that's all they really need to get the job done against a lower player and causes a lot less confusion. With these 5 steps, you now have the competitive mindset necessary to succeed and evolve as a player in any game you play. You have to use these things, be aware of them, and advance further. Become mid. Anyway, I'll see you guys later. Peace.